Coming up on today's episode, I want to run through the latest on Myles Garrett's trade request, where things stand with the Browns, as maybe they're more, open to moving on from him than they initially appeared. And we have a player who is preaching to Garrett to stay in Cleveland. So let's jump right into it, starting with Greg Newsome, who did an interview with Mary Kay from Cleveland.com, and he made his pitch to Garrett to stay with the Browns. And I'll share a bit of it with you guys where he says, I definitely try to talk him down, sit down and talk to him. He's like a brother to me. Just get some information on what he's thinking, why he's thinking this, and try to talk him down, because it'll be very tough losing him. This isn't a hot take at all, but Greg Newsome's not influencing anything for Myles Garrett. There's no world where Myles Garrett, well, you know what? After Greg's call, I looked at the whole thing way differently, especially based on Newsome's comments. He sounds like someone who hasn't spoken to Myles since maybe the season ended or since the trade request. So I don't know anything about their personal relationship, but I don't think it's super duper close, because if they were buddy-buddy, which there's a decent age gap between the two of them, he probably would have said, I've talked to Myles about this. This sounds like someone who just wants Myles to stay because Newsome doesn't have the ground to request a trade, which, by the way, Newsome's talking about keeping Myles here. Newsome needs to worry about himself right now, because I think there's a good chance the Browns deal him away. He's got a fully guaranteed $13+ million coming his way this season after a down 2024 campaign. So, Greg, I know your heart's in the right place, and Browns fans appreciate the effort for trying to keep 95 in Cleveland, but watch your own back right now, because I think there's a good chance you could get traded as well. But if you want Myles to stay a Brown, hit that thumbs up button. Hopefully he stumbles across this video and he's torn. He's like, can't do the dog pound this dirty, right? Got 500 likes. That's the deal breaker. I wish. But yeah, hopefully maybe he's like 50-50 on it, and he sees this video before talking to his agent, and he's like, all right, Browns Report got me by Chat Sports. So switching gears just a little bit, but still staying on the same vein, Dianna Russini from The Athletic also put out an article with what she's hearing, and one part of it really jumped out to me. She wrote, teams from both the NFC and AFC have been calling, and the response from Cleveland's front office, we are not moving him, but stay tuned. The moment we get a tweet or an update about what Myles Garrett's value is, that should be an alarm bell to you that the Browns are really considering a trade. Oftentimes when trade rumors come out, it comes from the team to the agent because they want word to get out, but they don't want to tweet it themselves. Like, here's what we want for Myles, everyone. They want Schefter to put it out there, so it looks like they have no part in it. But when we get that update of the Browns are looking for minimum 2 first-round draft picks and more, that's the Browns letting Schefter tell everyone else, here's our price. If the Browns called teams up and told them their price, teams all of a sudden go, wait a minute, you're calling me? I thought I had to be wooing and whining and dining you. A little bit of leverage might slip a little bit, because now the Browns aren't the one that's being, chased. They're the one doing the chasing. So they use Schefter as a mouthpiece to put out what they're looking for, and they let the offers come in. But I do believe this is something to remember. This is a tiny little milestone about, while the Browns have been adamant they don't want to trade Garrett, I don't think they want to keep him hostage either, right? What's the result here? He sits out for training camp. He pulls like a Hassan Reddick or a Le'Veon Bell, and he misses all of 2025. He's got plenty of money. I don't think he'll be too upset with the fines. He's adamant. He wants to go play for a contending team. He does not believe the Browns are a contending team. So the Browns have to prove to him they are a contending team. And it doesn't appear giving him $35, $36, maybe even $40 million a year is going to change his mind. Money talks, and maybe that's what happens, but for the time being, it sure doesn't seem that way. So my prediction is the Browns are going to hope that through free agency and the draft, the moves they make can change his mind, right? If they make a big trade for Matthew Stafford, if they sign Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins and Garrett still believes they can play at a high level like they have been, not too long ago, and then in the draft they go out and get, I don't know, Abdul Carter to work opposite of him or Travis Hunter to help with the secondary and the receivers a little bit. Maybe the Browns are going to go, all right, Myles, we're going to do our best to put together. It's kind of like the scene out of Draft Day, where let me finish putting together a roster, and after that, you can decide if you want to coach this team. Where let us finish building this roster through free agency and the draft, and then come back to us in May if you still want to trade after seeing what we have done to this roster in the offseason. To me, that seems like what the Browns are trying to do here. I don't think they're looking to rush a trade. There are pros and cons to getting it done before the draft. A pro is you get 2025 draft picks. That's something Andrew Berry would like to have if he feels like he does not have a ton of job security going into this season. A con to trading Garrett before the draft is it's way more expensive for the team. The dead money on his contract is a lot larger. Whereas a post-June 1 trade, which, by the way, I'm sorry, Mike Florio, you cannot designate someone as a post-June 1 trade. And no, you can't agree on a trade and then hopefully they hold up the end of the bargain and actually complete the trade after June 1st. But like I was saying, the pro of a post-June 1 trade is you can split that dead money over 2 off seasons. $14 million is not a big dead money charge. 21, not that big. $5 million in cap savings, not that big either. But that financially is doable. Pre-June 1 is $31 million. That's tough. Not saying it's impossible, but it's tough. And so if it's tough already and you want to at least put out a portfolio to Garrett for what you've done this offseason and the plan after making these moves, that has to include what you do in the draft. So while I am kind of at a crossroads here, because on one hand, everything I just said makes a lot of sense about putting together a free agency and draft plan and executing that and going to Garrett afterwards and saying, is this a roster you can roll with? If not, we'll try to trade you now and look for something in July or August, especially because it's post-June 1, so financially it's a lot easier. But the big con on that side is Andrew Berry does not get any picks for the 2025 draft. So, does Andrew Berry feel like he's got good standing with Jimmy Haslam that pretty much no matter how bad it could get in 2025, he's not going to get fired? I don't think he wants to be another GM that traded a star player away, got a boatload of picks, and never saw those picks. I've referenced this GM before, but it's like the Raiders GM. Traded Khalil Mack to the Bears. He was fired in January, and he never used any of those picks. To me, that's too risky. May not be what's best for the team. This is not a loaded draft class. There's going to be 32 guys that go in round 1, as always. Probably like 12-ish round 1 talent. Usually there's like 15 to 20. You're about 5-ish short this year. Would not be the worst thing in the world to stock up on 2026 and 2027 picks and just bank on those drafts being better because it's going to be a little bit more difficult for it to be worse than this year's. There are good players in this draft, don't get me wrong. The defensive tackles are great, but the quarterbacks aren't that good, and that's for another video, which we've done a lot, but I won't go too deep down that well. So does Berry believe, hey, I've got the support of the front office that I can make this deal and I will see those picks in 2026? If I could ask Andrew Berry one question where I get an honest response from him, that might be my question. Do you have it almost in writing of like, we've got you, Berry. We know things have not gone as well as we would have hoped, but we're not going to fire you after this year, pretty much no matter what, because we know it's in the team's best interest to do a trade after June 1st. So you'll see those picks. Don't worry and don't force a trade pre-draft, which might be worse for the team, but it was best for you. So with where things stand right now, do you think the Browns are going to end up trading Myles? Or is he going to change his mind? Are they going to keep him hostage? not looking good from a simple, severance. It doesn't look like it's going to be an easy divorce. I don't think we're going to see a nice every other weekend at Dad's. No, it's going to go to the courts. Like, it's going to be an ugly separation because the Browns don't want to move on from him, and Garrett took a whole week in New Orleans to go up to anyone with a microphone and a camera to say, I want to be traded. I don't know how you convince him you don't want to be traded after that. Let's pick a card to wrap up today's episode. Which card today, Mr. Barkus?
First one that came to mind was 2 of Hearts. I don't like it. 3 of Clubs. I don't like it either. Jack of Spades.
I'm going to go 10 of Clubs. I'm not going to change it. I know it's crazy.
Whoa!
I know. But I'm feeling 10 of Clubs. What'd you say? 9 of Clubs. I was feeling it. Just missed it. All right. That will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider subscribing and liking the video, and I'll see everyone tomorrow.